All right, good morning. For our media partners, I'm Hernando County Sheriff Al Nienhuis. It is spelled Nienhuis, and it is pronounced Nienhuis. I'd like to thank you all for coming. This is a briefing on Operation King's Fall. It's something that we've been doing since October of 2024, so it's been almost a year. I want to talk a little bit about why we do these investigations first, give you a brief outline of what happened, let a couple people talk, and then I'll go into some specifics of what occurred over the last year or so. First of all, why do we do these? I know some people are often critical. We think we focus too much in one area and not enough on another and so forth, but as you will see as we go through this press conference, this particular organization was involved in not just drugs and gambling, but there was a lot of violence associated with this group, and we have since made arrests on that. This particular operation, and we do these things also for the people that live in that area. We talk about violence, and I know some people might be inclined to say, hey, if they're part of a criminal organization and they want to kill each other, go ahead and let them do that. Of course, we're not going to let that happen, but the real reason we do this is when these shots are fired and this violence occurs, innocent people who live in that area who have been begging us for years to do something about this, but unfortunately they're not always willing to help us because of the violence and the fear of reprisals and things like that. So it was very difficult to infiltrate these types of organizations, but we do it to make a level playing field for the businesses in that area. When you're talking about money laundering and so forth, somebody wants to open a legitimate store in that area, a convenience store, it makes it almost impossible for them to do that. So even the money laundering is important to keep a level playing field for all those businesses, not to mention the fact that the businesses in the area are constantly worried about maybe random gunfire coming through their business. This investigation, as I said, has been going on almost a year. I just got some briefing this morning that even prior to the search warrants that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, we have invested at least 8,700 man-hours into this investigation, and that is a monumental amount. When you add in the search warrants and some of the investigation that's happened thus far, it's probably well over 10,000, and again, we're still kind of at the tip of the iceberg because there's so much more evidence to go through to make sure that these cases are as good as they possibly can be for the the prosecutors rather. Orders, we normally think of things like search warrants or subpoenas for records and so forth, but things like search warrants where a judge is giving us permission to do certain things. There's one, we've done over 50 of those, 53 I think at last count of those orders, one of which the sergeant was telling me was 287 pages long. And that's just one of those 53 orders. So you can imagine what type of people you have to have doing these investigations to be able to generate that type of work to come to where we are today. Originally, this particular case focused on Super Saver Food Store. A lot of us in Hernando County know it as King's Food Store. It was formerly known as King's. It's located at 1400 East Jefferson Street in Brooksville, which is a little south of downtown on Jefferson. We soon learned that we had a deeply embedded and a very highly organized criminal organization. And we found this by way of extensive surveillance, a lot of undercover and covert operations, confidential informant testimony, financial record analysis, electronic monitoring, multiple criminal arrests on the outskirts of this particular organization. And during that investigation, we identified narcotics trafficking, illegal gambling, weapons possession, as you see over here to my right and your left, and of course, as I already mentioned, a tremendous amount of violence. And members of the organization actually included about a half a dozen members of the Gangster Disciples, at least one member of a gang that they call KBM. I'm told it means Kill Bout Mine. And these affiliations allowed that organization to advance through their structure. The investigation's of course still ongoing and evidence is still being processed and analyzed, but thus far we've had 67 arrests/charges against 22 different individuals, and 11 of those individuals were closely associated with the organization. We'll show you some charts in a few minutes. And we already have at least 2 of those individuals being charged with RICO, which is obviously a very serious charge. It's Racketeering, Influenced, and Corrupt Organization Act, and it's under Chapter 895 rather, .03 of Florida statutes. About 3.5 pounds, a little over, of cocaine. You can see most of it there. About 57 grams, a little over 57 grams of fentanyl, which obviously fentanyl is very potent. It doesn't take much. The cocaine's worth over $100,000. Fentanyl is probably worth about $5,000 or $6,000. And we have about 35.1 grams of Xanax, valued at street value of about $350. 9 firearms. I think you can see most, if not all of them there. And thus far, we've seized a little over $8,300 in currency. Now, how could we do all this? Well, we absolutely could not do it. We have 2 limiting factors, and that's the number of people we have and the amount of dollars we have to spend on those people that labor, and of course the buys and so forth. And we certainly could not have done this investigation without the help of the state of Florida, particularly a program that you probably heard Governor DeSantis talk a lot about, is the SAFE grant program. And so far we've spent about $100,000 in that, and we certainly want to say how much we appreciate Governor DeSantis and all the leaders in Tallahassee that made this possible to help us knock down some of that fentanyl as well as the violence associated with that. And representing the state of Florida is our local special agent in charge of the Tampa district office, or Tampa FDLE office, is Special Agent in Charge Mark Brutnell, and I would like to go ahead and turn it over to him and have him say a few words.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate that. So I'm going to talk real briefly about the SAFE program. Again, good morning. I'm Mark Brutnell. I'm the Special Agent in Charge for FDLE here in Tampa Bay. I want to thank Sheriff Nienhuis and his staff for allowing us here today to talk about the SAFE program. But before I do that, I want to also give a big shout out to the investigative team. Great work, guys. This is very, very good stuff. When this created the SAFE program, and we knew it could make a difference. 2 years later, the results speak for themselves. SAFE is delivering exactly what was promised: more resources for law enforcement, more takedowns of traffickers, and record seizures of fentanyl. So before I came up here this morning, I pulled the numbers for the entire state of Florida. And as of this morning, there's 169 active SAFE investigations. And of those investigations across the state of Florida, working with our local and state and federal partners, we have arrested 2,278 individuals, seized 229 kilograms, or to break it down even more, 503 pounds of fentanyl. That's enough fentanyl to kill 32% of the United States. 32% of this entire country would be dead. Of 503 pounds of fentanyl. It's not just the fentanyl, as the sheriff mentioned earlier. We've seized 547 pounds of cocaine, 2,000 pounds of marijuana, 3,000 pounds of methamphetamine, 4.6 million in cash, over 730 firearms. When there's narcotics, there's firearms. Those go hand in hand. That's very, very dangerous. 76 vehicles have been seized as well. The SAFE program matters to local law enforcement everywhere, whether it's in big cities or rural towns. In this case is a perfect example right here in Hernando County, Operation King's Fall. Through the SAFE initiative, detectives and agents were able to identify, target, and dismantle a long-standing criminal investigation. The sheriff mentioned the seizures. I would take this step one further. I applaud their foresight by coming to us and asking for this grant to use this money to rid this community of folks that have been just a scourge to this county for a long time. These folks are gone and they're not coming back, which is a good thing. SAFE is working, but the future depends on our funding. Last year, we're very thankful that Governor DeSantis added $8.5 million to keep the SAFE initiative going. This year, the legislature did not add any additional funding. So right now we have $4.9 million left in our SAFE account. We're hoping that this next session we get some more infusion of money, because obviously it works. The numbers don't speak, the numbers don't lie. I'd also like to thank again Governor DeSantis for calling on the legislators to approve additional funding in this next session. Every dollar we invest in SAFE makes Florida safer and keeps this deadly fentanyl off our streets. Florida is leading the nation on how to fight fentanyl. We have several cases around the state where I've had briefings where we've heard these traffickers say, Florida's a little hot, maybe we shouldn't come there. That means it's working. It's working. Safest proof that when you give the men and women of law enforcement the tools they need, they deliver results, just like this. We will not allow drug cartels to poison our communities, and with the support of additional funding, Florida will remain the toughest state in the country in targeting fentanyl traffickers. Again, thank you for your time. Job well done, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Again, appreciate the
Yes,
relationship.
thank you, sir.
We have a great relationship here in Hernando County with our state and federal partners, and of course, FDLE is right at the top of that. And I have to put a shout out to the special agent that was working with us, Special Agent Gao. My people tell me that he was assigned to this particular operation and was with us every step of the way. And to say we appreciate that is an understatement. Another organization, they couldn't have anybody here today because I think they had some training they had to go to out of the area, and that is our local prosecutor. Bill Gladson is our state attorney here, and as soon as this investigation started rolling, he assigned one of his top people who's an expert in these really difficult and complex operations, Walter Forgy. He has helped us tremendously with this, and I really have to give a shout out because, again, all of this is for naught if we don't successfully prosecute. So we try to get them in early, and they are more than willing to work with us. And they were actually out on some of the search warrants the other day, right in the middle of it, looking eye to eye with some of these people and some of these issues, some of this evidence that we were seizing. So we appreciate their support. Next, I want to talk about the city of Brooksville. Most of this occurred in the city of Brooksville, and Brooksville is a relatively small city as cities go, but it has a great heritage, and it is really kind of the diamond of Hernando County. It is the county seat, and we certainly couldn't do this without the partnership of our local government inside the city of Brooksville. They actually contract with the sheriff's office to provide even additional patrol type. This was all done by investigations, but they have additional patrol inside the city for their city residents. And so I'd like to turn it over to our local city mayor of the city of Brooksville, Krista Tanner, and I think she has a couple people she would like to introduce. Krista?
Thank you, Sheriff. Yes, hello, good morning. I am the mayor of the city of Brooksville, Krista Tanner. With me this morning as well is our city manager, Lisa Hendrickson, as well as the vice mayor, Thomas Bronson. And I just want to take a brief moment just to thank the Hernando County Sheriff's Office for their dedicated service and partnership, not only with our community, but specifically the city of Brooksville. We are very grateful and grateful to work hand in hand with them to ensure the safety and security of our residents. The response to the specific crimes that will be discussed here this morning just reflects the diligence and unwavering commitment and partnership that we have with them, and we're grateful to stand with them as a city side by side to build a stronger and safer Brooksville for all who call it home and come here. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you, sir.
Now we're going to get kind of into the meat of what happened over the last year. And, as we go through this, I ask the people that are here in the audience or the people that are watching at home to think about the people who live in this area, the good people who are fed up with this, frankly, and scared. One other thing I almost forgot to mention, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about my fellow sheriffs to the north. Sheriff Dave Vincent and Sheriff Pat Breeden, when we asked for their help with SWAT teams, they really didn't help. Fortunately, we didn't need their help a whole lot during the investigation, but when it came time to do 8 simultaneous search warrants, which is by far the biggest operation, one-day type operation in the history of Hernando County, they stepped right up. They don't ask a lot of questions, say, what do you need and where do you need it? And they came forth, and I think we may have a couple pictures, or we may have already seen them, of the force that was to be reckoned with that morning, dozens and dozens and dozens of law enforcement officers, and so I certainly appreciate my fellow sheriffs to the north. But as we go through this, I want you to think about the people that had to live with this, and to kind of set the stage, we have a video that we're going to show. It'll be up on the screens behind me and around the room, and this is all publicly available video that we have to show a little bit about what was going on. So show it. And this is actually inside the parking lot, this particular video of King's or Super Saver Food Store. You see they're gambling on the outcome of this altercation. Again, that's right in front of Super Saver Food Store. Okay, if I could have the lights. This all started in October when we pulled over a gentleman named Mohammed Hassan. He was later identified as the operator of Super Saver Food Store, and he was arrested during a traffic stop, and he was in possession of hashish at that time. Then in November 21st of 2024, we actually started kind of a preliminary investigation into the store, some undercover operations, and we found that there was illegal gambling going on in the store, and it was actually paid out by Hassan. And again, he was the registered agent as well as the manager of that store. And we observed a lot of narcotics transactions occurring from behind the counter from both Hassan as well as other individuals. And then, so that kind of got the, we were doing an investigation for the next several months, and then we had a pretty significant event occur on February 17th, 2025. And this is, you're going to have two videos here. The first one starts inside the store and then actually ends up going outside the store. So we'll play that. It's Hassan was present, and I'll talk a little bit about the suspect when we get done with our two videos here. Now again, this is inside the store. You're kind of looking at the front door, looking into the store, and the cash register's on the left. Our victim is out of camera range. You can't see her, but she's behind the counter there in the back corner trying to hide. So that's what happened inside. And then the next video will show shortly after that, the suspect comes running out and is shooting at the car that our victim was leaving in, actually hit the car, hit the back window of the car, and the bullet went, I'm told by investigators, the bullet went through the car and almost struck her in the head. We were lucky we were not investigating a murder. So we can turn the light back on. That particular investigation moved pretty quickly of that particular incident, and we found that Dominic Delaney, he's a male. He's born in February 21st of 2007, so he was just literally a couple days away from turning 18 when this happened. He's a documented KBM member, and he was arrested at that time, and he's being charged as an adult by the state attorney for attempted murder, shooting or throwing a missile into a dwelling or vehicle, criminal mischief, discharge of a firearm in public, and possession of a firearm by a delinquent. He has an extensive juvenile record, and possession of a firearm by a delinquent is kind of the juvenile version of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So that obviously ramped up our investigation. Now we have some documented violence occurring. And so we started a larger scale investigation. And we have a couple spoke charts here. This is the individuals that we think are really closely associated with this particular organization. You can see the individual in the middle, and I'll talk about them in a second. He's the one that was in a lot of those videos with the money and so forth. And then the second picture is some of the people that are on the outskirts of this investigation. We had a lot of marijuana, cocaine, and crack cocaine sales. And the first individual who was ended up arrested as part of this particular operation is Mohammed Hassan. He's being charged with the RICO Act, money laundering, sale and possession of marijuana ×2, possession of marijuana with intent to sell ×3, personal possession or place of a structure for the sale of controlled substances possession of cocaine, possession of Xanax, possession of hashish, possession of marijuana, possession of paraphernalia, times 4, lottery violations, times 3, gambling violations, times 3, and actually possession of gambling devices, times 3, and keeping a gambling house, times 3. So he's the person who was running the store. And the money was being commingled with the proceeds of other sales inside the store. Then the individual you see in the middle of the chart there is Kevon Dorsey. He's a documented member of the Gangster Disciples. He has 2 prior felony convictions for possession of marijuana over 20 grams, as well as fleeing to elude. He's being charged with the RICO Act, money laundering, trafficking in cocaine, 28 grams or more, times 11 charges, conspiracy to traffic in cocaine, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, sale of a controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a place of worship, times 8. He's charged with possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell within 1,000 feet of a school, times 15, I believe that is. Sale of a controlled substance with possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell, times 4. Possession of marijuana, unlawful use of a two-way communication device, and possession of drug paraphernalia, times 16. Now his wife is Corey Dorsey. She's being charged with money laundering, conspiracy to traffic cocaine, possession or trafficking rather of 28 or more grams of cocaine, possession of cocaine, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Then we had a couple individuals we did search warrants on at the same time we did the store, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but to give you an idea of what they did. This is Dominic Bickford and Dante Bickford, and we'll talk a little bit more about them. These individuals are being charged with Dominic, which is on your left or my right. He's being charged with trafficking in cocaine, 28 grams or more, times 1 time, sale of crack cocaine, times 4, sale of marijuana, times 3, possession of marijuana, times 2, possession of a controlled substance, which happened to be cocaine, with intent to sell, and he has 7 counts of that. Possession of a controlled substance, which is Xanax, having possession of a place or a structure for the sale or manufacture of a controlled substance, that's 4 counts. Possession of hashish, again, he's also being charged with possession of a two-way, unlawful rather, use of a two-way communication device, and possession of drug paraphernalia. His brother is also a documented gangster disciple. Both of these individuals are. Sale of crack cocaine within 1,000 feet of a church, times 2. Possession of cocaine with intent to sell within 1,000 feet of a church, times 3. Unlawful use of a two-way communication device, possession of marijuana, possession of paraphernalia. Then we have Maurice Warren Washington. He's a documented gangster disciple. He has 5 previous convictions, including possession of cocaine, times 3, and robbery with a firearm, times 2. He's charged with sale of fentanyl within 1,000 feet of a place of worship, sale of a controlled substance within 1,000 feet of a place of worship, possession of a controlled substance, times 2 within that same 1,000 feet, possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell, times 3, sale of cocaine, times 3, unlawful use of a two-way communication device, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Now, Arthur Williams, we'll talk about him in a little bit later as well. He's being charged with fleeing to elude. He has 13 prior felony convictions, including aggravated battery on a pregnant victim, strong-arm robbery, burglary, grand theft, sale of a controlled substance, possession of cocaine, tampering in a third-degree felony proceeding, as well as to intimidate or threaten a victim. He's being charged with fleeing and eluding a law enforcement officer, possession of a firearm by a felon, possession of ammo by a felon, possession of cocaine, possession of crack cocaine, possession of marijuana, possession of drug paraphernalia, and driving with a suspended license with knowledge. And then Brian Haygood, he's being charged with violation of probation. He has previous felony convictions for sale of marijuana, trafficking in cocaine, times 3, possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell within 1,000 feet of a church, possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell, possession of a controlled substance, in this case Xanax, times 1. He also is charged with possession of marijuana, possession of that marijuana with intent to sell, possessing a place for the sale or manufacture of controlled substance, and there's 3 counts for that. Unlawful use of a two-way communication device and possession of drug paraphernalia. And we have a couple more people we'll talk about in a little bit, but to talk about what happened on July 17th, shortly after the video we had seen a little bit ago that happened in February, a couple months later, there was actually a drive-by shooting at the store. And the target in this case was Arthur Williams. We don't have video of that, and that investigation is still going on. The target of that was Arthur Williams. And during the investigation, we found out that both, also Maurice was also a target. So Arthur and Maurice were a target of that drive-by. We think there was probably gang affiliations. And Arthur and Dante actually armed themselves, left the store, and attempted to try to go after the individuals who committed that drive-by shooting. So there was some violence there. We don't have a video of that. Then Arthur Williams, on July 19th, we attempted a traffic stop on him, and this is where his charges come from. He ran from us. Fortunately, we were able to get him stopped in the area of, I think it was Peach Street, in that same area, and we'll have a map at the end to show you where all this occurred. And he was charged with felon in possession of a firearm. He had cocaine on him, and he was charged with resisting arrest without violence. Then the next month in July 23rd of 2025, Levante Holland, and we have a video of this, Levante Holland committed an armed robbery against, looks like another patron inside the store. So if we could go ahead and show that particular video. Again, the picture here, now you're behind the counter looking towards the back of the store. The front door is immediately to the right, and the back left, I think, is where that previous victim had hid. But you can see the video here when she starts it. Our suspect is the one in black in the middle of the screen there. And he's talking to this young man who becomes the victim. Now, ironically, when this is going on, Arthur Williams is previously arrested. There's apparently somebody in the store that is actually talking to Arthur Williams on a jail call and kind of giving him a play-by-play about this pistol whipping. So, it's all intertwined there. So we find out that the person doing the pistol whipping, if we could have the lights, is Levante Holland. He is a documented gangster disciple. He was born in 2007, and because of this, he was arrested shortly thereafter for armed robbery, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, and unlawful possession of a firearm by a person under 18. So that's happened on July 23rd. Just about a week or two later, on July 28th, we were able to make a traffic stop on Robert White, Jr., and he's the one where we got our fentanyl from. He had over 57 grams of fentanyl. He had some Xanax, had some crack, and drug paraphernalia, and he was charged with all of those. Then on August 14th, we did the search warrant on the Super Saver food store, the actual hub of this criminal activity, and we arrested Mohammed, who's Hassan. We arrested him, and then the 2 Bickford brothers. And in that, I think I lost one. These 3 individuals were arrested, and we had 2 search warrants on that particular day. We did the store, and then we also did a location on Pickford Avenue. And in that particular search, we seized gambling machines. We seized 960 grams of marijuana, 19.4 grams of cocaine or crack cocaine, and 2.7 grams of Xanax, as well as one of these firearms up here, the AR-style pistol. On Prospect Hill, which is fairly close to the store, it's actually a little south of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. It's Pickford's residence. We seized 39.3 grams of crack cocaine and the residence was also found to contain materials meant for cooking that particular crack cocaine. Then Kevin Dorsey, our main target, kind of altered his patterns, and he relocated his narcotics to a storage area at 1315 Daniel Avenue. Additional financial documentation information, Kevin Dorsey and his wife have a shell company, believe it or not, that helps conceal the illicit funds. So this is definitely a sophisticated enterprise from the narcotic sales. So on September 5th, we'll show a map of our location, Arrowhead First, which is last week. We did our search warrant. This particular location is more on the west side of the county. It's kind of a little bit of an outlier. It is owned by Dorsey and his wife, and Kevon. And in that particular residence, and for reference, it's behind the ABC Liquors and the IHOP there on kind of the south end of the county on US 19. They had actually had a fire a while before we did the search warrants, and we didn't find any drug evidence, but we did find some financial documents that related to that shell company, and they'll be incorporated and analyzed as part of the investigation. Then we could show the next map, and this kind of is an overview. You can see kind of in the center there, and to the right a little bit of center is the 1400 East Jefferson. That is the store. All of the rest of those are the search warrants that we conducted last week. And on Hazel Avenue, that was Brian Haygood's residence, and we found in the attic cocaine and crack cocaine, Xanax, and marijuana. On the Harar Avenue, which is 603 and 605 Harar, it resulted in additional narcotics and seizures and the arrest of an associate. His name was Sean Dunker. And then 832 Leonard Street, which is kind of to the south there in the center, to the bottom. We had 3 individuals there, and that's actually a little outside the city limits. They were arrested for possession of crack cocaine, Eugene Early, and a couple others. But we know Eugene regularly purchases narcotics from Kevon, and he actually redistributed them. On 385 rather, Union Street, which is an apartment number 46, it actually belongs to Dorothy Harvey, which is Kevon's mother, and we found 12 grams of marijuana as well as some cocaine in that residence. And then on Daniel Avenue, which was occupied by Kevon's brother, Dimitri Thornton, we found the kilo there of cocaine rather, and it was confirmed to be supplied by actually Corey Dorsey, who is Kevon's wife, who transported it to that particular location. We found just a little under a pound of marijuana as well as 3 of these firearms. Kevon and Corey were arrested at the Days Inn on Windermere Boulevard, and Corey was actually found in possession of a firearm as well as over $5,000 in U.S. currency, and we seized vehicles as evidence in this particular case. Now, I know I went through a lot, but I'm going to have, unfortunately, one of the things that is a little bit frustrating for me, I can't have the real stars of the show up here because they are working in undercover capacities, and of course, the investigation is going to continue. Particularly this investigation still has a tremendous amount of work to do on it. And of course, we're kind of hoping that some investigations will spin off of this. But I will tell you, the people I have working this, they're the best of the best. And you can't do an investigation like this in an agency our size if you don't have the absolute best that law enforcement has to offer with professionals. And so with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Sergeant Harper. He was kind of the supervisor of this investigation, put hundreds of hours into this over the last year. So I'll have him come up, talk a little bit, and he might be able to answer a few specific questions for you. Sarge, good job.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sergeant William Harper. It's H-A-R-P-E-R. I'm the supervisor for the Vice and Narcotics Unit here at the Sheriff's Office. I'm going to answer some questions, but prior to that, I just want to take a quick second to thank some individuals, specifically the detectives, deputies, non-SMART personnel who worked on this case. It's hard to put into word how much work went into it, specifically the investigation, then also the preparation and execution of a search warrant. executing search warrants at 8 houses with about 125 personnel on that day. Also, I want to thank Bill Gladson in the State Attorney's Office, specifically Walter Forgy, Marissa Shannon, and Rob Lewis. I've worked all kinds of investigations here at the Sheriff's Office, but I've never been as involved with the State Attorney's Office. And the reason for that was we wanted to build the strongest case possible, and I don't think I've ever been as certain unbeatable case as this one. And then, as the Sheriff already stated, also the SWAT teams for Hernando County, and then Sumter and Citrus. Something we really want to drive home is how dangerous these individuals were. Not only are they just in possession of firearms and so forth, the violent acts. They were willing to commit violent acts at any time, whenever they wanted. So having 3 SWAT teams able to execute 8 search warrants allowed us to do so safely without any other concern. So, you guys have any other questions?
Could you be more specific about the involvement of the grocery store? Was it the ownership involved, just the manager and the people that hung out
Correct.
there?
So that was the main hub of where everything was occurring. Just about every individual we mentioned was hanging out there, selling narcotics there. A lot of violent acts happened there. The owner, Mohammed Hassan, he was allowing these individuals to do so, and also involved himself. So he was allowing them to sell narcotics, he was allowing the violent crimes, he was allowing the fights to occur in the parking lot, and so forth. So which is how we got involved until it was originally investigating him.
Any idea how he got connected to the gang or gang members? Like, how did they?
So we're assuming, he never specifically said, he owned the store for a couple years. What we're assuming is the fact that they kind of moved in and were hanging out there, and he got too involved, and before he realized that he was in too deep, and he was just as involved as everybody else at that point.
Did any actual grocery shopping go on there?
Minimal. That's something we actually joked about when you go to the store. There was a couple racks of chips and drinks. However, I can tell you from a lot of hours of surveillance that we did, it wasn't very often we saw people walking out with actual merchandise.
I'd imagine like people that want to go shopping wouldn't feel safe there.
Correct. No. Yep. And that's the robbery that occurred there. That was a younger individual who was going inside the store, and he was ultimately robbed for going in the store and not knowing the individuals there. And so, like I said, they hit him with a gun, they pistol whipped him, and stole his money. So.
Is this store open right now?
No, sir. No. After we executed the search warrant, we arrested Mohammed Hassan, his little brother Yusuf Hassan, who was assisting in operating the store. They've been shut down since that time. Any other questions?
Thank you. Excellent. Again, I apologize. It was long and there was a lot of information. As you well know, our public information officer will be sending out, as he said at the beginning of this, links to the videos as well as any of the graphics we did. Again, we say it over and over again, our partnership with FDLE, the resources provided by the governor and the leadership in the Tallahassee in both the House and the Senate, as well as our cabinet members. We are so fortunate to be in the state of Florida where law enforcement is supported. And, I heard recently, and I don't even know who said it, but I heard it on the news. Somebody said that law enforcement job is not to prevent crime. Their law enforcement job is just to investigate crime. And boy, what a bunch of baloney. We are sure that we can't measure how much we're going to prevent, but with these individuals in jail and the amount of violence that was associated with this, I can assure you that we have prevented some crime, and hopefully we have prevented an innocent person from taking around and maybe even being killed. A few years ago, we actually had an infant that was being held by somebody, and there was some violence associated with it, and the infant was actually grazed by a bullet. And those are the things that keep a sheriff awake at night, is those innocent people getting hurt. And so if we can prevent some violence in that area a little south of downtown, we are certainly going to do it. And this sends a strong message that we have the resources and the capability and the expertise to do investigations that include money laundering, include violence, include drugs, include gambling, you name it. If it's a serious violation that makes the playing field unlevel for those people who want to abide by the law, then we're going to address that with the same force and effect of this investigation. So for our media partners, thank you for coming and covering this, and to our citizens that are watching at home, as I always like to say, we appreciate the support of law enforcement here in Hernando County. We never take it for granted. Thank you all.